Ladies and gentlemen, over the last couple of days, the Trump administration has pretty much kicked things into overdrive, completely battering the Democrats left and right. In fact, with the start of the new year, 2026, it seems like the Democrats have pretty much just been suffering defeat after defeat after defeat, loss after loss after loss. You've all heard of Project 2025. It almost makes you wonder if the Trump administration has now implemented Project 2026. And actually, just earlier today, we officially got our very first massive Democrat arrest. And by the way, I'm not talking about some low-level guy. I'm talking about a former senior-ranking Democrat politician arrested earlier today. We're going to break that down. We also saw earlier this afternoon a certain Minnesota political campaign completely implode, Governor Tim Walz, and we're also seeing mass mobilizations of federal agents, boots on the ground in Minneapolis right now, 2,000 agents on the ground kicking in doors, making arrests. We're talking about immigrant fraud right this very moment. But to really kick off today's show, let's talk about the ongoing situation with Maduro and Venezuela, because as you all know, it is directly tied into all of this. Because about 90 minutes ago, Stephen Miller actually made an appearance on none other than Jake Tapper's show on CNN. Stephen Miller, this is going viral right now. This is why I want to kick off today's show with this. Stephen Miller absolutely torched Jake Tapper about 90 minutes ago. And also, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you have seen the news. Literally right this very moment, it seems as if there is a military coup going on in Venezuela right now, happening right now. The Venezuelan military is trying to depose and oust the new president, the former vice president of Venezuela. She was Maduro's vice president. She has stepped into his shoes. It seems like there's drama, there's chaos on the streets of Caracas right this very moment. We're going to break that down as well. I've got footage of that I want to show you as well. But ladies and gentlemen, let's just go ahead and jump into today's broadcast. Do me a favor, we're live right now on Rumble as well as on YouTube. Please make sure to like the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for being here. We have a lot to talk about today. To really kick things off, let's go ahead and take a look at this first clip, Stephen Miller versus Jake Tapper, CNN.
What the president said is true. The United States of America is running Venezuela. By definition, that's true. Jake, we live in a world in which you can talk all you want about international niceties and everything else. But we live in a world, in the real world, Jake, that is governed by strength, that is governed by force, that is governed by power. These are the iron laws of the world that have existed since the beginning of time.
But in terms of day-to-day operations in Venezuela, that is acting President Rodriguez, right? It's not some sort of American emissary.
This is that vice president. Seems like there's a coup underway right this very moment to kick her butt out. Delcy Rodriguez is her name, former vice president under Maduro of Venezuela, now, as of 2 days ago, current president. Seems like the Venezuelan military is not so happy about that.
No, what I'm saying is, we'll keep going here, Jake. So I want to say what I'm saying, and you'll follow up. But what I'm saying is just one level above that, which is that, by definition, we are in charge, because we have the United States military stationed outside the country. We set the terms and conditions. We have a complete embargo on all of their oil and their ability to do commerce. So for them to do commerce, they need our permission. For them to be able to run an economy, they need our permission. So the United States is in charge. The United States is running the country during this transition period.
If that's true,
obviously that doesn't mean that President Trump is setting the bus fare schedule inside the country. So doesn't mean that President Trump is assigning the K-12 curriculum in the country.
So this is, I don't know, I think we're all living in the civilized modern era. We're in the 21st century, for God's sake. It's kind of uncomfortable to acknowledge this, but that doesn't mean it's not true. This almost feels very crude and brutal and Bronze Age almost. But it is true nonetheless. And what I'm saying is, listen, what really Stephen Miller here is saying, how do you enforce peace? How do you enforce sanctions? How do you stop bad guys around the world like Maduro or otherwise? It is force. It is force. It is power. It is military projection. And that is what Stephen Miller is talking about here. And it almost feels brutal and, like I said, carnal and like it's out of the Old Testament or something. But the reality is the only thing that keeps brutal, dictatorial, authoritarian type of people like Maduro in line, you do have to kind of smack some people back in place at a certain point. And that is exactly, it is through power. There's a reason why we have this saying here in the United States, peace through strength. Well, what happens if you are never actually willing to apply the strength? You never actually have the peace. You're just stuck here spouting a dead platitude, peace through strength, peace through strength. But if you actually refuse to apply the strength, which is exactly what President Trump has done here 2 days ago, then you never actually have the peace. You have to be willing to apply a little bit of pressure and apply the strength in order to reap the peace, which is really what President Trump's goal is right now. Now, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, this was actually not part of my schedule for today's broadcast, but as I was getting ready to go live with you folks, this is happening like literally right now. This is footage hot off the press as of 5 minutes ago. I kid you not. There is a military coup, what seems to be a military coup underway on the streets of Caracas. So Maduro got apprehended. He's up here in the U.S. now, sitting in a prison cell in New York. Maduro had a vice president who took up the mantle. She's now leading the country. Her name is Delcy Rodriguez. Well, as it would seem, sources on the ground are reporting that the Venezuelan military, the Venezuelan people, they aren't the biggest fans of Delcy Rodriguez. They're trying to kick her out. In fact, earlier today, we were getting reports that it actually wasn't the Venezuelan military that was even keeping Maduro in power. It was a Cuban paramilitary force, Cuban boots on the ground in Venezuela that were helping Maduro maintain power. And it was Cubans fighting Delta Force operators 2 days ago. Delta Force allegedly killed like 60 of them that were protecting the Maduro compound. The Cuban forces have been kicked out. Maduro's gone. Delcy Rodriguez is hated by the actual Venezuelans, by the Venezuelan military. And so now this is what is going on. This is footage from 10 minutes ago. These are the streets of Caracas. You see just mass gunshots, hysteria, people firing up into the air. Who knows? Right now, it is complete and total chaos. Nobody knows exactly what's going on, to be honest with you. However, we do have reports of armed gunmen walking through the streets of Caracas also. Take a look at this one.
Al suelo. Mandando a tirar al suelo a este carajo y este carajo ni.
So there's two men with guns walking through the alleyway here. Once again, about 10 minutes ago.
¿Para dónde vas tú? Yo vivo aquí, le dice este carajo.
Looks like that guy has a gun up there. It looks like these two individuals have guns. I'm not sure what that guy's deal is. But then this next clip I'm going to show you actually gets even crazier. Breaking news, troops can actually be seen moving towards the presidential palace in Caracas, Venezuela, and as intense gunfire is heard and recorded by Venezuelan citizens. So this is all of the reports coming out of Venezuela right now. They're all saying that there is a coup underway. Literally, I cannot stress this enough. right this second. And we can't even really talk about it too much during this broadcast because it's happening right now. I've shown you all the footage I have at the moment. It's all emerging second by second here, but the story goes allegedly right this second, the military has turned on Delcy Rodriguez, who is the illegitimate former vice president, now president, if you can even call her that, in Maduro's absence. The military is trying to kick her out, and maybe, perhaps, she still has a loyal small group of supporters, maybe Cubans, that are by her side protecting her in the presidential palace, but that the military and the people want her gone. And so I can't give you really anything more than that. It's happening right this second. We're going to, maybe at the end of today's broadcast, we can double back and see like a half hour from now if anything has changed with this situation. But things are going crazy. There's a power vacuum. There's a struggle right now. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about Venezuela's complete and total surrender to the Trump administration.
There's going to be some posturing that occurs when a nation has been so thoroughly defeated in this way. The United States of America, think about this, Jake. The United States of America has encircled this nation for months.
Yeah.
One of the largest naval armadas in history has been stationed off its coast.
Yeah.
Fighter jets have been encircling the island. We've been engaging in kinetic lethal strikes against Maduro's drug boats and trained Arauco gang members leaving the island.
Yeah.
We have launched a complete oil embargo of the ghost fleet, the dark ships.
Yep.
We've
And
been
now
covering
on
all
top
of it.
of that,
Yeah.
and now on top of all of that, right, Maduro is sitting in a jail cell in New York, as is his wife.
So
of course there's going to be, this is very important though, of course there's going to be some posturing.
Okay.
Without giving anything away, I want to be very clear. Very clear. The government has sent messages, this is such an important point, Jake, to the Secretary of State, to our senior U.S. government official negotiators. They have sent message after message making clear that they will meet the terms, demands, conditions, and requirements of the United States.
Okay.
And I want to be very clear about
So what he's saying is right now, this is the Delcy Rodriguez, the former vice president, current president, who's experiencing this coup right now. Earlier today, I don't know if you heard the news, this is what he's talking about. Delcy Rodriguez actually effectively, completely, and totally capitulated to the Trump administration. She said, I don't want any drama. I'll do whatever you say, whatever you want from me. You can take the oil. We're going to stop the drug manufacturing, exporting drugs. That was the Delcy Rodriguez regime earlier today. Complete and total surrender. And you might actually remember about a week ago, really for the last month, Maduro had been saying the same thing. Maduro was like publicly saying, Trump, please just let me remain in power and I'll give you whatever you want. Take all the oil, we'll stop the drugs, whatever. We are totally willing to surrender, Trump. Just please don't kill me or kidnap me. And Trump very clearly wanted him gone. Not gone. Trump wanted him apprehended and brought to the U.S. That is what Trump wanted. And so now Maduro's gone. He's no longer leading the country. Delcy Rodriguez, former vice president, current president, for who knows how much longer, maybe not by the end of the night, she is also saying, okay, please just don't kill me. Don't abduct me. We'll give you whatever you want. But seems like the Venezuelans themselves aren't really interested in that dynamic. Seems like they want her gone. Now, there is another sort of character in this entire dynamic. This is Nobel Peace Prize winner and Maduro regime opposition leader, Maria Machado. Let's hear from Stephen Miller whether or not Mrs. Machado should become the new leader of Venezuela. Take a look.
First of all Venezuela experts agree, that it would be absurd and preposterous for us to suddenly fly her into the country and to put her in charge. And the military would follow her and the security forces would follow her. This is not a serious, it's not even a serious question.
So the answer is like kind of no. The answer is no. He's saying, this is just like, by the way, she's not in Venezuela now. She's elsewhere. Maybe she's in the United States. I'm not sure. What are we going to do? Ship her back to Venezuela and then she's going to take over the country? I think things are a little bit more complex than that. We got to see.
So should there be an election?
Let me, if you give me the floor for 30 seconds, let me tell you what we are doing here, Jake. The United States, this is sort of foundational. The United States is using its military to secure our interests unapologetically in our hemisphere. We're a superpower, and under President Trump, we are going to conduct ourselves as a superpower. It is absurd that we would allow a nation in our own backyard to become the supplier of resources to our adversaries, but not to us, to hoard weapons from our adversaries, to be able to be positioned as an asset against the United States rather than on behalf of the United States.
What is he saying? Real quick. He is saying, listen, we are tired of all of these belligerent Venezuelan antics. We are sick of the anti-American antics of all of these Latin American countries. Going forward, our principle is America first. We are going to make sure that Venezuela is doing what we want them to do. And you know what I love? The Trump administration right now is just being so brazen. They're saying, yeah, we are taking control. They are doing what we want them to do, and we will make sure of that. We are the superpower. We run the world. This is our hemisphere. America first. We are done tolerating subversive anti-American behavior in our own backyard. We are doing what is best for us. Don't like it? Deal with it. I love how brazen and mask off and just unabashed, how shameless it is. Shameless in a good way. There is no shame. It's America first.
Sovereign countries shouldn't be able to do what they want to do.
The Monroe Doctrine and the Trump Doctrine is all about securing the national interests of America. For years, we sent our soldiers to die in deserts in the Middle East to try to build them parliaments, to try to build them democracies, to try to give them more oil, to try to give them more resources. The future of the free world, Jake, depends on America being able to assert ourselves and our interests without apology. This whole period that happened after World War II, where the West began apologizing and groveling and begging
I don't even
and
know
engaging these
honestly
mass
what you're talking
reparation
about right
schemes.
now.
What I'm talking about, Jake, is the idea. And by the way, you do. I know you love doing that smarmy thing, Jake, and I was hoping to be better than that this time.
I asked you about if there should be an election.
Exactly.
I asked you if there would be an election in Venezuela. That's what I asked. I said, why was the president so quick to dismiss Machado? You answered that question. And then I said,
the objective, Jake, is security and stability for the people of Venezuela. With our help and leadership, that country will become more prosperous than it has ever been in its whole history. Venezuelans
but the
will
woman
be richer
running Venezuela
and
right
safer
now is
and
part
more
of the Maduro
secure and
regime.
better off. There will be conversations.
Not for long. Looks like not for long.
Jake, about all of these guideposts along the way. The reason why I was giving you that speech, which I know you didn't want to hear, is because you're approaching this from the wrong frame. This neoliberal frame that the United States' job is to go around the world and demanding immediate elections to be held everywhere, immediately, all the time, right away. To create these vacuums.
That's not what I think, but you invaded the country. Went into the country and we seized the leader of Venezuela.
Damn straight we did.
And I'm
damn straight we did. You know, before he continues on, I'm going to say, I think over here in the America First camp, all of us right-wing Americans, there is this like notion that we should be completely and totally isolationist. We shouldn't even have foreign policy. Personally, I'm not really a fan of that. Listen, I think it is important to have foreign policy. It has to be good, prudent, intelligent foreign policy, though. So if you want to say, like, you know, Matt Morris, should we invade Iran and have 100,000 American soldiers marching through the desert in Iraq or Afghanistan or Iran? It's like, well, no, because that's not prudent foreign policy. That's like incompetent. That's moronic, as we have all seen time and time again. However, if you want to talk about asserting American Western hemispheric hegemony, taking control of our own backyard and deposing dictators in Latin America that are personally responsible for killing hundreds of thousands of Americans, yeah, I do think that makes sense. This harkens back. Everyone's talking about the Monroe Doctrine. This is the premier piece of American foreign policy. Going back to 1823, 200 years ago, this is like this idea. The United States controls and maintains leverage over the entire Western Hemisphere. This is the foreign policy that made our country great in the first place. This is how we got here, was the Monroe Doctrine. Okay, some of these people that are saying like, oh, we need to never do anything ever. We're not allowed to leave our front house. It's crazy. We're not allowed. It's like, well, okay, so would you not have purchased all of the Louisiana territory from France? Would you not have fought the U.S.-Mexico War? Would you condemn President Polk? Would you? It's like, really? What are you talking about? Would you not have purchased Alaska? Would you not have fought in, 1899, the Spanish-American War, and pushed the Spaniards out of Cuba and then taken Guam? There's a difference between good foreign policy and bad foreign policy. Like we said, Monroe Doctrine, Western Hemispheric supremacy, this is good foreign policy. It is. And there's a distinct difference between this and bad, incompetent foreign policy. But hey, that's just like my humble opinion, I guess.
I'm saying,
we're not going to let.
So is the U.S. going to have new elections?
Jake, is that we're not going to let Tim Pot communist dictators send rapists into our country, send drugs into our country, send weapons into our country.
Okay.
And we're not going to let a country fall into the hands of our adversaries. The future of Venezuela, working with America, is going to be so bright and so incredible and so positive, and we'll have a conversation about everything that you raised. But the priority right now, as the president has been made clear, is a judicious, thoughtful, careful transition process to secure a great future for Venezuela and to secure a great future for America.
All right.
So let's just take a moment and just acknowledge, Jake, that what we've witnessed under President Trump's leadership this last week is one of the greatest foreign policy and military victories this country has ever had.
It is. It just obviously is. And you know what? Beyond, I think this is a factor, a component of this that maybe a lot of people are not talking about. Beyond the immediate impacts as it pertains to Venezuela and Maduro, this sends a very, very clear message to the entire world. Like this, this operation that was carried out with Delta Force and the Apache helicopters and the 160th Stealth Airborne, division or whatever, SOAR, S-O-A-R. This sends a very clear message to other potentially belligerent, hostile nations around the world. And that message is, we can be anywhere, anytime. We can get in and get out. We can do whatever we want. The United States of America, we have competent leadership. We can do whatever we want around the entire world at any time on a moment's notice, and you'll have no idea it's coming. And also, you won't be able to do anything to stop it. And that the message that was broadcast 2 days ago was, in fact, very similar to Trump dropping these bunker buster bombs in Iran from these stealth bombers, these B-2 Spirit stealth bombers, 50,000 feet up in the air. And that message is, we are the United States of America. We are back. If we so choose, we can do whatever we want anywhere in the world with complete and total impunity. And you can't do anything to stop it. It sends a very clear message. The United States is back in control. And by the way, I think there's a lot of value. I think there is a tremendous amount of value to sending that message. You want to talk about that phrase, peace through strength. Sometimes you have to actually display what that strength looks like in order to manifest the peace. And that is what we're seeing right now. I think a lot of countries, they kind of forgot the global dynamic here. The United States is in charge. At least the United States is in charge when Trump is in charge. That is the truth. Now, Marco Rubio, as it relates to all of this, sent a message out specifically to the United Nations just earlier this afternoon. Take a look.
You're wrong in your question. Number one, Venezuela is a major source. And the reason why is the following. And I've seen a lot of this reporting, and it's fake reporting, and I'll tell you why. It says that somehow Venezuela is not involved in the drug trade because the UN says they're not involved in the drug. I don't care what the UN says. The UN doesn't know what they're talking about. Maduro is indicted by a grand jury in the Southern District of New York. That means the Southern District of New York presented the evidence to a grand jury, and a grand jury indicted him. And then a superseding indictment came out that was unsealed about 1.5 years ago that specifically detailed Maduro's actions. So number one, let there be no doubt, Nicolas Maduro is an indicted drug trafficker. in the United States, and he's a fugitive of American justice.
And now, by the way, so first off, he says, I really don't give a crap what the UN says. You guys know this. We talked about this. In fact, I actually have an update for you guys, I believe. As we now know, the new director of the United Nations Security Council is a man from Somalia. You can't make this up, who actually owns, or at one point formerly owned, a fraudulent Somalian healthcare service in Ohio. I kid you not. The new director of the United Nations Security Council is a Somalian fraudster who lives in Somalia, but somehow owns a healthcare provider, a healthcare business in Ohio, which has been defrauding U.S. federal taxpayers. Literally. The director of the UN Security Council is a Somalian guy. So when we say that we don't care what the United Nations really says about any of this, that's kind of what we're talking about. Mike Waltz, member of the Trump administration, not Tim Waltz, Mike Waltz, who is our current U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. He spoke a little bit about this earlier today.
The United States wants a better future for Venezuela. We believe a better future for the people of Venezuela and for the people of the region and the world is stabilizing the region and making the neighborhood that we live in a much better and safer place.
The region. He doesn't just say Venezuela, the region. Remember that. We're going to talk about that here in a minute.
And this is why millions of Venezuelans that have fled this brutal regime are celebrating and cheering around the world as this body pontificates.
Yeah.
Including, those celebrating are including in my home state of Florida, where hundreds of thousands of Venezuelans have fled this regime's brutality. I want to reiterate, President Trump gave diplomacy a chance. He offered Maduro multiple off-ramps.
Yeah.
He tried to de-escalate. Maduro refused to take them. President Trump made it clear that the narco-terrorism must stop, and yet it continued. The United States will not waver in our actions to protect Americans from the scourge of narco-terrorism and seeks peace, liberty, and justice for the great people of Venezuela. I thank you, Mr. President.
One of the funniest things to see over the last 24 hours or so, if you are on X, if you use Twitter or X, as it's now called, there is like an online battle. There's an online cyber war going on X for the last 24 hours. It is Venezuelans that are celebrating the fact that Maduro is now gone. They're celebrating, woohoo, we're so happy he's gone. And then it's incompetent, moronic, far-left liberals, Democrats up here in America that are condemning Trump's behavior. And so there's this battle on the internet going on right now. It's Venezuelans celebrating versus far-left Democrats that are saying, hey, no, Trump had no right to depose Maduro, to get rid of him, to bring him up to the U.S. to face charges. And it's this like combat situation you never would have expected to see, but you are seeing it. We are seeing it nonetheless. Now, President Trump aboard Air Force One late last night gave his thoughts on Colombia, who's being led, of course, by Colombian President Petro. Remember I said he mentioned the area, the territory, the region, not just Venezuela, but the region. Well, region. Colombia is involved also.
Colombia is very sick, too, run by a sick man who likes making cocaine and selling it to the United States. And he's not going to be doing it very long, let me tell you.
Nope.
What does that mean? He's not going to be doing it very long.
He's not doing it very long. He has cocaine mills and cocaine factories. He's not going to be doing it very long.
So there will be an operation by the U.S. and
it sounds good to me.
Sounds good to me. Is there going to be an operation to get rid of Petro? Sounds good to me. Now, by the way, Petro, this is a curious guy. I think actually he's probably not so bright. The president of Colombia, Petro is his name. He doesn't even deny the allegations about narcotics, namely cocaine, coming out of his country. In fact, he has defended it. he has publicly come out and said, yes, we sell cocaine. Yes, but the United States, they drink alcohol. Is alcohol, everybody in the U.S. drinks alcohol. Is alcohol really that much worse for you than cocaine? How can all these alcoholic Americans, they're drinking alcohol left and right, how dare they condemn us and our cocaine? You're going to condemn all of us cocaine dealers down here in Colombia when you guys are drinking alcohol? I kid you not. This is what he said. He came out, I don't know, a couple months ago on video, and he tried to defend himself by this whole line of logic, if you can even call it that. And so I think he's perhaps not the smartest guy. In fact, I know he's not the smartest guy because he came out yesterday afternoon. Keep in mind, this is after Maduro was apprehended in the midnight raid, Delta Force, Apache helicopters, the entire shebang. So after Maduro was apprehended, Colombia President Petro, he came out and he issued a statement in Spanish.
A mí no me amenace, aquí los peros.
Nobody speaks Spanish, so we don't need to listen to it. But the translation is a message to Trump saying, Trump, don't threaten me. I'm waiting for you if you want. So, like I said, I think this guy is probably just a complete and total moron. How you would feel comfortable saying that after this midnight raid on Maduro's compound in Caracas, then within 24 hours, he comes out and says, Trump, you're not so tough. Come and get me. Come and get me, Trump. Yeah, that might just happen. That might just happen. I think he's probably next. He is probably next because he is one of these crazy Latin American dictator delinquents also. Yes, he is. He is, in fact. Now, there's another country that's involved down here in this Latin American area, right off the coast of Venezuela. In fact, this country is called Cuba. President Trump spoke about Cuba on Air Force One last night. Take a look.
Cuba is ready to fall. You know?
Yes.
Cuba looks like it's ready to fall. I don't know if they're going to hold out.
Was there a final
But
straw?
Cuba now has no income. They got all of their income from Venezuela.
Yeah.
From the Venezuelan oil. They're not getting any of it.
Final
And
straw?
Cuba literally is ready to fall. And you have a lot of great Cuban Americans that are going to be very happy about this.
Are you considering U.S. action in Cuba?
We're not. I think it's just going to fall. I don't think we need any action. It looks like it's going down. It's going down for the count. You ever watch a fight?
I have.
They go down for the count. And Cuba looks like it's going.
And so this is, President Trump kind of alludes to this, but we can give some more nitty-gritty detail here. Cuba, as it would turn out, Cuba and the Maduro regime in Venezuela had a very mutually beneficial relationship. Like we said about a half hour ago, most of the Venezuelans, even the Venezuelan military, they were actually not the biggest fans of Maduro. And so Cuba, they needed Maduro in place. I'll tell you why here in a minute. So Cuba actually sent their own military, members of Cuban paramilitary groups, they sent them down across the Caribbean, down to Venezuela to protect Maduro and to keep Maduro in power, to help Maduro maintain control of the country. Why? That's a good question. The reason why is because, as President Trump said, Cuba, they don't have many global trade partners. They don't really have a great global presence here. Okay. And so without Venezuela's oil, it's all about the energy and the oil. Cuba has nothing. Many countries around the world, they've got sanctions on Cuba. Cuba doesn't really have a thriving, GDP or economic sector, as many of you know. And so they needed the Cubans, they needed Maduro in power because he was the one giving them energy and oil, or selling them energy and oil at a discounted black market rate. And so they struck a deal. They're shaking their hands. Cuba said, all right, Maduro, we will keep you in power because nobody else will. And in exchange, you sell us discount black market oil. Sound good? Sounds good. And so that was effectively the deal. But now Maduro is gone. It seems like Delcy Rodriguez is probably not going to be running this country for very much longer. It seems like there's a military coup happening right this very moment. And so with the oil and the energy coming out of Venezuela totally shut down, Cuba is not in a very good position. And so this is why President Trump is saying, well, I think they're just going to kind of implode. I think they're going to crumble and implode. Maybe we don't even have to pressure them that much. It's just going to happen naturally by nature of taking Venezuela out, or rather the Maduro regime out. That you push one domino over, and then all the other dominoes start sort of crumbling apart. Now, we hear from Democrat Senator John Fetterman, who once again has broken from the ranks of all of his other fellow Democrats. You might have noticed all the progressives, all the Democrats in this country, they are condemning President Trump. Oftentimes, they're actually explicitly defending Maduro himself, saying he's not such a bad guy. Fetterman is actually sort of once again siding with the Republicans. Take a look here.
So for me, it's like, why as a Democrat, we can't just acknowledge that it was successful, and now it absolutely was a risk. And now that's why we're going to continue to monitor it. And I'm going to remain open to a better outcome for Venezuela and Venezuelans and the region.
Yeah. So, Senator, to that point about the region, the president seems to be clear now. He wants to change the way we're doing business, not only in Latin America, but the Americas in general. That includes Cuba as well, and some of the other countries as well, and try to fight off the influence of China and Russia. What do you make of this new foreign policy now that the president is implementing?
I'm saying that, what I've seen, whether it's Iran now and Venezuela, it's like putting some of these actors accountable beyond just some rough language on social media. So that's where I'm at. And now how many experts call that the strike in Iran would spiral the region and create all kinds of mass chaos? That's just absolutely not true. That just didn't happen. And now perhaps Iran could even have a nuclear weapon now. So for me, if you're willing to stand up to people like this, now a lot of those members of BRICS are definitely paying attention and realizing that they can't continue to destabilize our global order.
And so, folks, every time I hear Fetterman say something like this, where he breaks away from his fellow radically progressive Democrats and actually says something somewhat sensible, I can't help but think this, and I'm sorry this is a little bit offensive, but I'm going to say it anyway. How is it the case that the most intelligent, most sensible Democrat there is the one guy that literally has brain damage? What a world we are living in. It really is just testament to how far fallen, dilapidated the entire Democrat Party is. Trump really has brain broken all of these Democrats. It doesn't matter what Trump does. In fact, I could rattle off numerous examples here. A lot of you know that for decades, it was the Democrats that were actually pro-tariffs. The Democrats, for a very long time, they were talking about how we need tariffs. We need tariffs on China. Traditionally, it's Republicans that are anti-tariffs. Famously, Ronald Reagan was very anti-tariff. Well, then Donald Trump comes out and does what the Democrats had been advocating for decades. Trump slaps tariffs, reciprocal trade tariffs on China and various other countries. And then the Democrats, on a dime, they flip. They say, actually, we hate trade tariffs. Actually, our new Democrat stance is we are now anti-tariff because Trump actually did it. You all know that it was the Democrats that first, under the Obama administration and then into the Biden administration, it was Obama that first said Maduro was a national security threat in 2015. In 2022, the Biden administration, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, they first applied a $25 million bounty on Maduro's head. They similarly said, this guy is a narco-terrorist. He has to be stopped. He's a brutal, bloodthirsty dictator. That was the Biden administration less than 4 years ago. Trump actually steps up and does something about it, and the entire Democrat establishment comes forward and they say, actually, we love Maduro. Actually, Maduro is not such a bad guy. It is just absolutely insane. The shameless degree to which these Trump derangement syndrome Democrats will flip on a dime just because President Trump did something. President Trump could cure cancer right now, And they would come out and say, well, actually, here's why cancer is a good thing. Here's why we need cancer. Here's why cancer plays an important role in our society. It really is something else. In fact, if you want to talk about hypocrisy regarding Maduro, the official White House government page on Twitter, on X, came out today. They actually put together a little compilation here. Take a look at this. Democrat hypocrisy on Maduro. Biden raises bounty for Nicolas Maduro up to $25 million. They did that. Joe Biden, here's a tweet. Trump talks tough on Venezuela, but admires thugs and dictators like Nicolas Maduro. As president, I will stand with the Venezuelan people and for democracy. Is that right? Is that right, Joe Biden? Kamala Harris came out. This is a couple years ago. She said, what's happening in Venezuela is a crisis. The people who have fled Maduro's dictatorial regime deserve safety and protection. As president, I would immediately extend TPS status to Venezuelans. It's the right thing to do. America must show moral leadership in this hemisphere. How about, rather than just bringing in all of the Venezuelans into the United States, why don't we just depose the dictator and make Venezuela a better place for them down there? Why don't we have a foreign policy focused on keeping the Venezuelans in Venezuela? Okay? We have enough people coming up here. Listen, we don't need to bring in 15 million Venezuelans. Let's just maybe get rid of the dictator. Everybody, both left and right, agree, at least at one point, agreed that he was a bad guy. And then let's keep those Venezuelans down in Venezuela. Maybe we don't need them up here. Now, we get into talking about NATO. Stephen Miller goes on talking to Jake Tapper about NATO.
It has been the formal position of the U.S. government since the beginning of this administration, frankly, going back into the previous Trump administration, that Greenland should be part of the United States. The president has been very clear about that. That is the formal position of the U.S. government.
Right, but can you say that military action against Greenland is off the table?
It wouldn't be military action against Greenland. The Greenland has a population of 30,000 people, Jake. The real question is, by what right does Denmark assert control over Greenland? What is the basis of their territorial claim? What is their basis of having Greenland as a colony of Denmark? The United States is the power of NATO. For the United States to secure the Arctic region, to protect and defend NATO and NATO interests, obviously Greenland should be part of the United States. And so that's a conversation that we're going to have as a country. That's a process we're going to have as a community of nations.
So you can't take it off the table that the U.S. would use military force to seize Greenland. You can't take it off the table.
Jake, I understand you're trying very hard to, which again, is your job. I respect it. It's great to get exactly the headline, right? That catchy headline.
I'm trying to get an answer to the question.
That says Miller refuses to rule out the United States should have Greenland as part of the United States. There's no need to even think or talk about this in the context that you're asking of a military operation. Nobody's going to fight the United States militarily over the future of Greenland.
One last question, Steve.
Denmark is not even able to take care of themselves. Denmark, for the last 30 years, is one of these NATO member countries that has always refused to pay its 2% GDP contribution into the NATO defense budget. So it's like, not only can they not take care of themselves, they are effectively a small micronation with what is effectively no military, no defense, no national defense. Beyond that, they've always been delinquent on their payments to NATO. And so it's like, on one hand, you have countries like Denmark in NATO saying, America, you need to protect us. Please, it's a big problem. You have to protect us from Russia. And then Trump comes in and says, okay, well, in order to protect you, Denmark, from Russia and China and other hostile nations, we need Greenland, which, by the way, only has 30,000 people living on it. It's just a big, empty, barren chunk of land. What makes Greenland important is that it is directly adjacent to the North Sea Passage. It is effectively a north passage for Chinese submarines, Russian submarines to drop down through the North Pole and float around in the Atlantic. So it's like, if we can shut down Panama, we've got a great relationship with Argentina down at the South Pole. If we can lock down Greenland close to the North Pole, we've got Alaska. We can actually effectively shut out all of this aggression from China and Russia. And yes, in fact, there is aggression. We know this. And so I think it makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. Donald Trump yesterday aboard Air Force One goes on to talk about this.
I will say this about Greenland. We need Greenland from a national security situation. It's so strategic. Right now, Greenland is covered with Russian and Chinese ships all over the place. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security. And Denmark is not going to be able to do it, I can tell you. You know what Denmark did recently to boost up security in Greenland? They added one more dog sled.
They added one more dog sled. Amazing. Nobody does it like President Trump. Nobody does it better than this guy.
It's true.
Sir,
they thought that was a great move.
What would the justification be for a claim to Greenland? What would the justification
I don't want to talk about Greenland now. I just say this. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security. And the European Union needs us to have it. And they know that.
And it's true. It's true. I wonder if we can bet on this. Somebody's got to open up Polymarket and see if we can place a bet on whether or not the United States will have taken operational control of Greenland by the end of 2026. I would bet that we do. I would bet that a deal is worked out with Denmark or NATO. I would bet that we do at some point in the next 12 months acquire operational control of that big chunk of land. That would be my guess here. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you might remember, let's move on here because I've got some big news to share with all of you. You might remember during the introduction to today's broadcast about 45 minutes ago, I said that today we actually have gotten what is one of our very first massive senior ranking Democrat politician arrests today. Everybody's saying we need arrests. We want arrests. Ladies and gentlemen, we got one. Take a look at this. A couple hours ago. The Drug Enforcement Agency's, the DEA's chief financial director under Barack Obama, his name is Paul Campo, who resigned in 2016 ahead of the first Trump administration, earlier today just had his Virginia home raided and has been charged for agreeing to launder $12 million for the CJNG, which is a Mexican drug cartel, while acting in his role at the Drug Enforcement Agency. So, to make this very clear, Barack Obama's chief financial director at the Drug Enforcement Agency was working with a Mexican drug cartel to launder $12 million out of the country. And he just got caught. His house was raided. He's been arrested now. The charges have been filed. How's that for an arrest? We've been talking, listen, 2026 is going to be a big year. There is one big arrest. Of course, we want to see more. We want more. We want more big arrests. But here's one to kick off the start of the year. I wanted to share that with you guys. I thought that was a big deal. I thought you guys might like that. Ironic. The chief financial director of the Drug Enforcement Agency under Barack Obama, working with a Mexican drug cartel to launder money. Now, you also might have heard that Governor Tim Walz, it's just been a bad couple days for the Democrats. Defeat after defeat after defeat after defeat. It's been a bad year. Project 2026 is not treating these Democrats very well. Governor Tim Walz has dropped out of the 2026 Minnesota governor's race.
Major breaking political news out of St. Paul, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Tim Walz will not seek re-election as governor, and what a fall from grace this has been for.
Nick Shirley destroyed his career. It was already destroyed, like it was already bad. Nick Shirley, a 23-year-old all-American young white man, got involved with a YouTube video, with a video he uploaded to YouTube. He's a citizen journalist, and he put the final nail in this guy's political coffin. Wow.
For him. You might recall in the spring of 2023, he pushed through several progressive ideas to the state legislature that caught the attention of Barack Obama, who went to Twitter to give his endorsement for the programs, which eventually caught the attention of people like Kamala Harris, who chose him to be her running mate as the vice president. Introduced in Chicago at the convention in August of last year, a debate that was an absolute disaster with J.D. Vance at one point called himself a knucklehead. But after reportedly billions of dollars have been stolen from taxpayers, by way of the state of Minnesota, Tim Walz says he will not seek a third term. What a remarkable 2 years in the national spotlight has been for him, Dana.
And
I think probably his biggest mistake was trying to become the vice president. You know, before the 2024 election, when he signed on with Kamala Harris to try to be her vice president, nobody, like, nationally, he wasn't really nationally known. Of course, people in Minnesota knew he was a moron, but nobody else really was aware of Tim Walz, you know? Man, he made a big mistake running for vice president. And you want to know why he did? And so this is a guy that very clearly has skeletons in his closet. Why does a guy with $10 billion worth of skeletons in his closet, why does he decide to run for vice president? What made him so confident? It's because he knew the election was going to be rigged. It's because the Democrats, Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, they knew the election was going to be rigged. But last minute, we saved the election. And we've talked about all of this. Smartmatic, Venezuelan whistleblower, Elon Musk got involved. Now we all know the story, and you start connecting the dots. Why did a guy like Tim Walz decide to run as vice president and get nationally recognized when he had all these skeletons in his closet? That doesn't seem like something a smart person would do. What's going on here? It's because in his mind, there was no risk of getting caught because he was going to become the vice president. His party, his team was going to seize control of the entire country. And then who cares how many skeletons you've got in your closet if you're the one calling the shots? The only problem is his plan, his gamble backfired because the election rig was prevented and democracy, our republic, was saved. The republic was saved by nature of shutting down their attempted fraud. And now we have Maduro in custody, and it's all going to start coming out. And it's all coming out. Made a bad gamble. Not very smart. And you know what? I want to show you something here. Okay, this is Congressional Representative Tim Burchett. I think all of us like Burchett. He's a nice guy. He's a Republican. He said, check this out. Yesterday, Representative Tim Burchett says that he thinks there is a paper trail of money that was sent overseas that ended up back in the pockets of lawmakers in Washington, D.C. He said this yesterday. He also said that soon there are going to be a lot of retirements amongst the Democrats now that Maduro has been captured. You're going to start seeing, now that Maduro's been apprehended, you're going to start seeing a lot of Democrats saying, all right, I'm retiring. Okay, I've had enough. I'm retiring. Trying to just escape the spotlight. They don't want the heat. He said that yesterday. Well, today, what happened? Tim Walz retired. He predicted it, almost like Nostradamus, with a Nostradamus level of precision. I don't know. He said, I hate it when I'm right. And he was. And now we are beginning to see the Democrat retirements. They're saying, all right, you know what? Maybe it's time for me to resign and stuff like this. It's all crumbling apart. Now, speaking of crumbling apart, I actually have some news today to share with you guys about what's going on in Minnesota. Here we go. CBS earlier today reported that an additional 2,000 federal agents are being deployed to the streets of Minneapolis to begin a, quote, 30-day surge and federal crackdown on immigration and on fraud. I think the Somalis in Minnesota have officially reached the find out stage, hence why Walz dropped out this morning. So the Trump administration is now flooding the scene. Do you know how many that is? 2,000 federal agents are flooding into the city. They're kicking in doors. They're executing search warrants. They're making arrests. things are heating up. And you know what? Between you and me, I think that they are going to find something. Before I show you this, does anybody remember, listen, this is like a week ago when all of this fraud stuff was coming out. Nick Shirley released his big video. What was the immediate response from the Tim Walz administration in Minnesota? They all said, well, the Minnesota State Democrats, they said, well, there's no fraud because we already performed numerous audits. We already audited all of these allegedly fraudulent locations. There's nothing to see here. Don't worry about it. Well, today I have an update for these audits. I think you guys are going to like this. You can't make this up. The auditor, somebody's got to conduct the audit. Some business is conducting the audits. Somebody has to do it. Independent journalists have determined, I'll just read this. Take a look. This right here is the listed location of the auditing firm that performed the audits for both Minnesota and Ohio on the NGOs that we have linked to the potential fraud. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the listed location of the audit firms right here at Jubba Value Center. Looks like a little ethnic corner store. Jubba, Jubba, Bubba, Bubba. I don't know. So it's H&H Barcad is the auditing firm. And this is where the business is registered. So they said a week ago, they said, well, we've already conducted all the audits. There's nothing to look at here, when it was Jubba Bubba Value Center that conducted the audits, the ethnic corner store here. You can't make this up. And so this is the type of thing. This is why Walz is resigning. He knows, listen, the criminal charges are already being filed. We already know this guy's under investigation. They're bringing criminal, and it's not just him, it's all of them. It is all of them. And so, ladies and gentlemen, at this point, what I would like to do real quick is go ahead and pull up my super chats. I didn't have these ready, so give me a moment here, folks. Everybody, thank you very much for tuning into tonight's broadcast. I'm pulling up the super chats here. I want to say thank you all very much for tuning in. I had a crazy day. In fact, I wasn't even sure that I was going to have time to do a broadcast today. My wife, you guys know my wife is an immigrant from Germany, and she has been here now for about 5.5 years, married to me, and she is trying actively to become a United States citizen. So today we drove over to Spokane, Washington. We had to drive all the way to Spokane. We had to go to the USCIS building in Spokane, Washington, the United States Customs and Immigration Services building, this big building in downtown Spokane. And I actually have a little bit of a crazy story. You guys are going to like this. This is going to blow your mind. This building, the USCIS building, was completely empty. The United States Customs and Immigrations building was totally empty. There was not a soul in the building other than the people that were working there, the government employees. No, it was like a ghost town. And so we went upstairs and we went and talked to the woman that was operating the desk, the USCIS desk, and we said, where is everybody? What's going on here? You're going to love this. She said, well, during the Biden administration, we used to process 100 applicants or 100 people every day, up to 100 every single day. 11 months ago, nobody comes here anymore. 11 months ago, this building has been a ghost town. They said we were there at 3 p.m. They said we were the first people they saw all day. It's 3 p.m. They're sitting there doing nothing because nobody's coming in. Nobody's coming. I couldn't believe it. The USCIS guys there were like, yeah, listen, it's over. It's over. And I was like, okay, all right, listen, it's working. Trump is doing something here. Let's go. We have some real life little anecdotal confirmation that whatever the hell Trump is doing, this is working. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I've got my super chats pulled up here. Thank you, everybody, for hearing my little story there. Okay, first super chat of the day. This is Jay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. He says, hey, Matt, big fan of your show. Keep spreading the good word. Alberta needs Trump to liberate us from the treasonous Canadian dictatorship. Our election was fraudulent. Mark Carney copied Kamala. You know what? I'm sure a lot of elections across the entire world are fraudulent as a consequence of this Venezuelan Smartmatic stuff. Yeah, I would not be surprised. Now, I haven't checked in on this in a couple months, But last I heard, there was a separation referendum. Maybe Alberta is leaving. They're trying to secede from the country. I'm not sure all the details, but if you are, good luck. If you are, good luck. Thank you very much. Thank you. This is Brian Cohen. Thank you very much, sir. He says, hi, Matt. Your show is my favorite on YouTube. I watch, feel bad that I never super chat to you. It's because I was born with a number of disabilities and I'm stuck living with my parents. Listen, Mr. Cohen, I feel like I should say this. I feel like I need to say this every single day. You guys should never feel bad about not super chatting or not financially supporting. You do not need to do that. Of course, if you do, I really greatly appreciate that, seriously. But for the love of God, you guys should never feel guilty or obligated to super chat or throw money my way. Sincerely, can I make a request of you? Take care of yourself. Take care of your family. Make sure that you and your loved ones are taken care of before you ever consider throwing money at some talking head on the internet. And I mean that genuinely. Make sure that you are taken care of. Never feel bad about it. Never at all. I want you to be taken care of and secure. Make sure you're good on your end. That's more important from your point of view. Now, of course, if you want to like the video and subscribe to the channel, that's a great way everybody can help out for free, but you never, and I'm talking me or any other commentator on the internet, never feel bad about not financially supporting. You do not need to. Thank you very much. That said, I do appreciate that. Thank you very much. Brian, thank you. Sincerely. This is from Martin D. Turner. He says, if not one supposedly listens to Tapper anymore, then why the F do we care what he says? That was a good exchange. Listen, hey, Stephen Miller put him back in his place. I think it was worth it on this occasion, at least. We don't listen to a lot of Tapper here on this broadcast, but today we made an exception, really, for Stephen Miller. Thank you, Mr. Turner. Jim Barbado, thank you. Thank you. Little animation there. Thank you very much. Thank you. This is Kim Dwyer says, love the brass balls America has with Trump. So proud of our country. I am loving this new era of unapologetic America. It's like, I don't even know what you call it. We are unapologetically America first. We are putting America first. No ifs, ands, or buts. We have been America last for a very long time. Now it is our time. America is back. We're putting America first and the lives of Americans therein first. We have to take care of our own needs. And in fact, this almost kind of ties back to what I was saying to Brian. Listen, if you ever want to help anybody else, really the best thing you can do is make sure you're helping yourself first. If you put yourself in a good position, then maybe someday you can take care of other people. But listen, as a country here, we're like $40 trillion in debt. We're over leveraged. Right? The economy was tough for a long time. We've got homeless veterans living under bridges. We've been invaded by 50 million illegal aliens. As a country, we are in no place to extend a helping hand to anybody else. We need to help ourselves. We need to actually put America first. That's what it's all about right now. Thank you. I appreciate that. We were in dire straits before the Trump administration here. This is Sapper Havoc says, libtards crying about the deportation of illegal aliens. Then when President Trump imports an illegal alien, they lose their minds. What happened? I know. It was, hey, no kings, no kings. Wait a minute. Leave that dictator alone. Hey, that dictator is with us. It's just insane. It's insane. These people they're not serious people, which is why we cannot let them regain control of the country. These people are nationally suicidal. We cannot let them destroy this country. And they will. And they tried. And they will try again. Thank you, Sapper. Sarcastic Prodigy says, the Democrats are especially Biden have a Ned Beatty foreign policy. Biden beg, don't. Yeah, listen, you can't just beg. You actually have to you got to put action and substance behind the words. Thank you, Sarcastic Prodigy. Thank you very much. You got to be serious. Sometimes you got to this almost sounds bad. This sounds bad, but it's like, listen, you got to lay down the law. Trump is globally, on the global scale, issuing backhands. Pa! Hey, pa! Hey, pa! Pa, pa! Sometimes that's what has to be done globally speaking, geopolitically speaking. Sometimes a president, a political leader has to get up there on the world stage and issue a couple backhands. You know, that's just the way that it is. Especially if we are the leader of the free world. You got to do it sometimes. Okay. This is frickin' Brian. He says, these morons want Trump to be a warmonger so badly. Trump is Trump is following the letter of the law. Trump apprehended Maduro with a warrant with DOJ federal enforcement officers on the ground alongside Delta Force, read him his Miranda rights, brought him back up to New York, and he's going to have a criminal federal trial in front of an American jury. If that's not following the law, I don't know what is. You know, compare what Trump did here with Maduro to some of our other presidents, dropping bombs left and right. Barack Obama's blowing up weddings, dropping bombs on children. It's like, so we're supposed to be okay with that. That's all good. But when Trump actually goes with a warrant and brings him back to give him a trial, like that's a problem, really? Okay. Thank you very much. Health Minister of Belgium, false alarm. Okay, I'll check on that here in a minute. Thank you very much. This is Aunt Sodi says, Nux Taku says 2026 is the year of the crusade and the blue Jew is rarely wrong. I hate to disappoint. I don't know what the hell that means. Maybe I'm showing my age. I don't know what it, Nux Taku. Who's the blue Jew? Who is the blue Jew? I don't know who that is. But hey, thank you. I agree. Listen, I think 2026 is going to be a big year. I think it's going to be a big year. I really do. I think it's already off to a good start. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. This is Greg Adamite. He says, I have never sit and waited for a show to begin. I was waiting for yours tonight. Take care, Matt. Greg, can I tell you something? A little bit of a thank you here. I never would have fathomed or envisioned where the show is now. We go live these days. We've got 15,000, 20,000 viewers. Every video we do here is doing hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube and Rumble. I never would have predicted that. I've been doing this now for 1 year. 1 year exactly. 1 year exactly. So I want to say, really, it's almost like the 1 year anniversary here. Thank you all very much for tuning in so consistently and so reliably over the last 12 months. It's only been 12 months, folks. And we are here to stay full steam ahead. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. The support is absolutely astronomically otherworldly. I mean, I don't want to brag, but guys, within just 12 months, we're doing the numbers here that like Ben Shapiro is doing and all these other big guys. They've been doing it for 20 years. We're already up there. Okay. So, and it's not because of me. It's because of you guys. You guys are so really so supportive. So thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Patricia Luna says, you are absolutely right, Matt. Waltz and Kamala knew the election was going to be rigged. Today is another great Trump day. Thanks for being there for us, Matt. Patricia, all day, nonstop, I am grinning cheek to cheek because you just know all of this stuff is coming out. With Maduro in Trump has apprehended Maduro. Maduro's in detention on U.S. soil. You just know any day now. All of this is coming out. The entire Democrat apparatus is imploding second by second. It's a good time. It's a good time to be an America First American. It is a good time to be a Trump supporter. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Now, I want to make sure I'm not missing any other super chats. I see one from Kevin over here. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. How's the Rumble chat doing? Rumble chat. God bless the Rumble chat. Shout out everybody in Rumble. Ladies and gentlemen, I really appreciate everybody tuning in. Like I said, I wasn't sure if I was going to have time to do a show today, but I'm happy I was able to squeeze it in. Thank you all very much for being here tonight. Every day, full steam ahead, nonstop. America first, all the way. It's going to be an exciting year, and we will be here together, collectively, to cover it and make sense of all of it every single day. So thank you all for your support, for your continued support. It's going to be a wrap for today's show. I'll see you folks tomorrow. And until then, everybody, God bless and stay safe. Thank you very much. Everybody have a great night. And we're going to figure out something tomorrow. Take care, everybody. I'll see you folks tomorrow. Thank you very much.